Alright, so we're going to be taking off the lower control arm. So 2003 Acura RSX Type S. Very simple process. The only thing that's going to probably be the most difficult is probably banging out that the lower ball joint from there. If you're going to be using the lower ball joint, then I would recommend on not using a pickle fork. You're going to have to keep banging the lower control arm itself, and so because you don't want to damage the boot. But if you're going to be replacing the lower control arm, most likely the ball joint's bad. I am going to be replacing the ball joint, but I'm going to kind of do it as two little separate videos, so it'll be tied in one. So yeah, we'll do the lower control arm first, and then I'll go ahead and do the ball joint, but I'll show us everything as one. It's almost going to be a similar process, but I will show the ball joint in another video. Just for the removal, it'll be the same. But if you haven't already, give it a thumbs up, comment down below if you have any questions, and hit that subscribe button for more upcoming videos in the future. And thanks for watching. So we're going to go ahead and take off our castle nut that's right here. That's a very little simple one. I mean, our cotter pin off our castle nut. So you're going to push towards you. So you're going to push this right here. Then you're going to pull this right back, and then that should slide out. Now for other people, you might need to get some little pincher wires and stuff, and then you will just kind of squeeze it and then pull it right back. Next, we're going to use a 17 millimeter to take off this bolt right here. So we're going to take off that 17 millimeter. Alright, so I don't know if I showed how to take off the nut, but just use the impact gun. Alright, so next thing we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to go ahead and pop out the lower control arm from the ball joint itself. We're not going to be using a pickle fork. Just for some of you that might reuse it, like I said, I'm doing two videos in one. For the people that are going to be replacing the ball joint, go ahead and use a pickle fork. It might pop out, it might not. So we're going to keep hitting this right here with the hammer. Now you're going to need at least, I'm using a 4-pound hammer. The bigger the hammer, the better it is. But if you can get like a nice good hit, then you're perfect. So we're going to keep banging this. I would recommend having some earmuffs, because sometimes these can take a little while to bang off. So we're going to go ahead and bang away. So right now what's happening is that the lower ball joint's actually going up while I'm hitting this. So we're losing tension on the ball joint. So you can see how it went up. So, shoot. Let me see if I could just take off the, whatchamacallit. We're gonna go ahead and take off the lower control arm first, and then see if we can probably take this off the vehicle. I want to kind of show this as a little demonstration, but as you can see, we always experience those difficulties. So we're going to go ahead and take off our CV nut axle. This is going to be a 36 millimeter. And then we'll just kind of give it a little light tap. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take off this 14 millimeter. So we're going to go ahead and push this out the way. I'll leave it right there. As you can see, these are shot. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take off this bolt that's right here. That's going to be a 19 millimeter. We'll pull down the bolt. And then we're going to go ahead and take off that 19 millimeter too as well. So we'll pop that off.
Alright, so after you're done loosening that bolt, it should just pop right out. There we have it. We got our bolts taken off. What we're gonna go ahead and do, you can get these S hooks from your auto parts store. They're about like 10 bucks for 2. So if not, you can use like some coat hangers. So we'll go ahead and put that through the bolt, and then we'll hang it on the shock just like that. So that's how I'm gonna hang that. Then we're gonna go ahead and take off these bolts right here. So we'll take off these 2 bolts. It's a 19 millimeter and a 22. So we'll take off those 2. Well, before we do that, let's take off that little 10 millimeter ABS sensor, or wheel speed sensor. Alright, so this one came off pretty easy, so thank God. And then we'll just wrap the wheel speed sensor around the brake hose, just like that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pop off these bolts, and as soon as we pop this off, everything should drop, besides the CV axle. I should hit that out right now, actually. So I'm going to pop out the CV axle, just like this. Well, the CV axle is just stuck in there. I'm going to have to extract it. It just does not want to bail out. I thought it was the ball joint that was stopping it. But no, this sucker is like straight up on there. I'm gonna spray some penetrating oil, let it sit there for a while. Alright, slowly coming out. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna probably have to grind down a little bit because it might not coming out because I already smashed up the head. Alright, so I went ahead and shaved the little meat off the edges, so I think I got enough meat out. So let me see. Tap it. Yeah, we should be good. If it doesn't come out, what we can do is put our little like a bolt, and it should pop it right out. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and pull out the axle, or I meant the lower control arm. So we'll just pull towards us.
One time the lizard saw me kill me.
Alright, so there we have it. Well, anyways, so we're going to replace the lower control arm or the ball joint. I mean, you can cut it right here if you want, or you can make a small incision right here. You can cut it right here and then hammer it out. I mean, dang, this thing is stuck. I mean, like, stuck. I'm going to see if I can bang it out. Alright, well, let's see if we can try to take a fork and call it a day. For God's sakes, bless this mighty soul of the ball joint. Oh my God. I know I messed up the heat shield. I'm gonna bend that back into place. I know for some of you that might ridicule me on this job. I was just trying to make a part, like a 2-part demonstration for, you know, you can replace the ball joint separately, and then, but again, we're just gonna replace this sucker because Either way, it's just shot. All right, so for the control arm, that's going to be replaced. That's all jacked up. And then for the ball joint, now normally you can just hammer these guys right out. So get like a little socket right over it, and then hold it. They should come out pretty easy, and then we'll go ahead and clean up our area, and then I'm gonna go get some of the tools, and then we'll get right back to the video. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and install our lower control arm. So what I like to do first when installing the lower control arm, make sure we go in this side first, and then we'll put in this bolt. Make sure you have your sway bar end link all the way up high. You don't want this guy right over, because if you do, then you're just gonna have to work a little bit extra. So make sure this is up, and then that you put this right under it. So we'll do that. Lift up the CV axle, and then lift this guy right up, and then we'll just wiggle it right in. Now sometimes you need to hammer it in, just depending on the aftermarket parts. If you get a pry bar, so like this, for instance, if you get a pry bar, you can wedge it in between the frame and the axe or the lower control arm, and we'll just insert the bolt. Then we got that one in, and then pretty much same thing for this one. We'll just bring this one just a tad bit out. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and tighten the bolts. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and put in our spindle. So when putting this guy in, we need to make sure we slide in our CV axle, and then we'll lift up at the same time. If I can do this. So I'll get like the ball joint and stuff. Let me see if I can show that. At the same time, we'll slide in the CV axle. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and slide in our axle, and then we'll just kind of work it away, you know, just move it up and down. Now what you can do, you can put your knee right here, put it against the rotor, and then put your hand on the CV axle. So just like this, we're gonna put our hand right here on this piece right here. So you're gonna grab the shiny part, and then we're gonna pull it towards us as we're tapping, and then wiggle it up and down. And then we'll kind of work it a little bit. I know it's sprayed WD-40, but yeah. Alright, so we got that. I can catch a couple threads. Alright, cool, we got a couple threads. Well, we will go ahead and tighten it. Usually they're a lot more easier, but just for some odd reason this side is being more of a pain in the butt. Alright, so we're gonna start the thread. I'll go ahead and impact that later. Make sure you put your castle nut on the bottom. I'm just gonna thread it in by hand right now. I'm not gonna bolt it in. So I'm threading in the nut, and then right here, we're gonna just move that up and down. And then we'll get our bolt, slide that right in. Same thing for the other side. See how the other side doesn't go in? Right here, doesn't go in. You can see what you do is if you ever start off on the top, which you should, it's more easier. All you have to do is just push the rotor towards the car. So when we push it, it'll slide right in. And then that's all said and done. So right now what I'm gonna go ahead and do, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these 2 bolts, and then I'm gonna tighten down the bottom ball joint. So once we finish tightening the castle nut, you would go ahead and put your, right here, you'd put the little cotter pin right there. If I can get this to focus. So yeah, you'd put your cotter pin right there, and then you would just bend one way. So you'll bend one up and then one down, just like that. And there we have it. I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up a little bit more. All right. Now we're gonna go ahead and put in our caliper. Or you know what, before we put in the caliper, make sure you put in your sway bar end link, just because it's more easier. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and put it on our caliper. So when putting in this caliper, you need to make sure that this hose looks like this. It's not kinked or bind or anything. Because if it is, well, guess what? You'll be having one locked caliper. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and tighten the axle nut. And then we need to make a small indentation. So right here, see how there's a little small indentation right there? So we're gonna go ahead and hammer that right in. So just like that, until you get right there. Then once we do that, we're gonna go ahead and tighten up the lug nuts. You're gonna do it in a little star pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then what I always recommend when you're tightening down the lug nuts, snug in at least 2 bolts so you can center the wheel so it fully catches, so it fully seats on the rotor. Because if not, sometimes it'll catch lip and then your wheel will wobble. And then after you just snug in these 2, then the rest you can impact away. I still got to finish the other side. Make sure you double check all your work. Make sure those bolts are tight. Everything's all tight. Double check everything. Doesn't hurt to double check. I still got to get a cotter pin. We'll put that right there. We're all said and done. If this video helped you out, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you have any questions. And hit that subscribe button for more upcoming videos in the future. And thanks for watching.